don't make it more. Okay, cool.
I was just
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna say probably not, but I can look.
Eric, how are you? Good. Staying busy?
What's that?
How's Mr. Boat doing? Good. Is he doing good?
Not
Yeah.
terrible.
I haven't even been.
Busy, but not terrible. How about you?
yeah. Oh, I
So
know.
busy, I haven't seen him in the last couple of days.
Okay. Is it a firm or?
Yeah, today went by fast.
It used to come down, you know,
Wasn't too
I've seen him come
bad.
down and
I was telling you, but
when
have different
obviously Freeport, now I don't see him as much.
yeah. Okay. You
Yeah, he's probably got a little more time in his hands with basketball being over now.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go.
Yeah. Must be on.
You're right.
Oh, really? I work at my house.
Poor dog.
I'm not sure if he's got heavy.
Last week he used,
Humid.
yeah, he used the microphone, not the.
So you want the comment?
Yeah,
This week is ready for you, Dovey.
Oh, James ain't here again tonight, huh? Wonder if the knee's giving him that much trouble, or he just don't want to come.
And if I go help him with
No, he's on.
we're done.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
Oh, you meant, yeah,
Yeah.
he said,
But
yes.
do you, I mean, like this, when the weather's like this, and then it's just gonna start growing like crazy.
Send him out right
Oh, Eric's chairman tonight, huh?
Let me ask like a few things. When you see it, when you first see a guy come in and talk to you, if you don't want to give it to me, leave him alone.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, just.
Good evening. Evelyn, could you please give the invocation?
Father, in Jesus' name, we give thanks for our city council. We pray for all who sit in authority over our city. We pray that your Holy Spirit will lead and guide them in all the decisions that are made here tonight. Father God, we believe that skillful and godly wisdom is their portion. Your word declares that blessed is the nation or the government whose God is Lord, Psalms 33:12. Father, we pray that every ordinance and every resolution will be what is pleasing to you and will benefit the people of the city. We ask it all in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Evelyn. So now we'll officially call this committee the whole meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderperson Borneman,
Here.
Monroe is absent at the moment. Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker,
Here.
Shadle,
Here.
Mysick,
Here.
and Barr.
Here.
And if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Borneman. Alderman Borneman, the meeting's yours.
Thank you. We'll start with a motion to allow remote attendance for Alderman Monroe, who needs requesting that due to medical.
So moved.
Ross, seconded by Shadle. And then we'll just need a vote on that.
Roll call
Roll call vote.
when there's remote attendance. What do you say, Alderperson Borneman?
What's that?
Yay or nay on remote attendance?
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Shadle, Mysick,
Aye.
and Barr.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0. At 6:02, I'll note him as present.
All right. So we need number 4 here, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Barr, seconded by Mr. Busker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll do a roll call vote for that, please, Madam Clerk. I vote aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Mysick?
Aye.
And Barr.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
Item 5 is approval of minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting from April 10, 2023.
So moved.
Mr. Busker with
Second.
and Mr. Mysick with a second. Roll call vote, please.
and Borneman.
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Meiser,
Aye.
and Barr.
Aye.
The minutes are approved 8-0.
All right, next item is public comment. So we have 3 people signed up. First is Doug Spearson. Did you want to give a public comment, or is this just signed up because you're presenting later? Okay, you can give a public comment if you want, but otherwise, just... Sure. David Overby? All right, and then we have Miss Ship, I believe. You can come up and give your public comment now if you'd like. Okay, so you just... Sure, okay, no worries. Great. So with that, no public comments at this time on agenda items. So we'll move on to item number 7. This is the Illinois American Water Works Association presentation of Water Ambassador Award, presented by Annie Story. Go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for this time. I'm here to present to the City of Freeport a Water Ambassador Award from the Illinois Section American Water Works Association. We are a part of our larger association, the American Water Works Association, which is made up of over 50,000 members across the nation and internationally. These are our operators, our engineers, our students, anyone interested in water, making sure that it is safe and sustainable for all of us. And you have done a lot of extra efforts in the past year through our Water Ambassador program, which is designed to help educate you, our public officials, educate our community about the infrastructure that we have, about the value of water. Some people, right, will buy a bottle of water, no problem, for $2 at the gas station, and then complain about their water bill. And it's a way for us to help educate all of us about that your water is safe. It is a great option for you, and we have a lot of science, right, that goes into your water systems, the science, the infrastructure, the engineering, and this is one way that we can show our support to our communities by receiving this award. It is one of 12 actually in the state of Illinois this year being awarded. So you are to be commended for your efforts of your water and sewer teams, of what they've done to really help educate all of us. So on behalf of the Illinois Section of American Water Works, we are presenting to you a gold level award. That is the highest level that we have. You will have a street sign that I think may or may not be up, but it is something that we hope that you'll continue to do and participate in throughout the year so that you can receive this recognition again next year. So thank you to your water team for putting in the work to do this year.
Thank you for the presentation, and it looks like the mayor and city manager are going to want to pose with you there. So it's like we have.
So, yes, you should.
You probably should, yeah. Fairgrounds.
Thank you very much.
All right, we will move on to presentation number 8, which is presentation regarding passenger rail to Chicago and the Federal Railroads Administration's Coordination Identification Program, presented by Doug Spearson and Hendrika Reguez of Ride the Rail.
Thank you. Doug Spearson, I'm co-chair for Ride the Rail. I live in Dubuque. We are a citizen advocacy group for dedicated establishing passenger rail service from Chicago to Dubuque and beyond. I don't know what you all know, so I'm going to go through a lot of material real fast, hopefully, here. We could spend 2 hours on this, but we're going to do it in under 10. So, okay, let's see. Okay. First, we'll quickly touch on the benefits of passenger rail. So it's a necessary connection to Chicago. You know, it's a business generator. passenger rail is very friendly transit mechanism. Roomy seats, legroom, it's quiet. You can read, you can use your cell phone, you can work on your laptop, you can take a nap. So you have to measure the value of your travel time. All-weather reliability. So if there's fog, if there's snow, if there's an ice storm, the train will go through. It helps with community attractiveness. The more modes of transportation we have to each community, the more attractive that community looks. So if you have good roads, great. If you have rail, great. If you have, in Dubuque, airport is an issue. If you have air travel, that's great. But each mode of transportation adds to the community attractiveness. And we have to think of the big city in Chicago. There's a big problem with traffic congestion. So you're mitigating traffic congestion. Freight track safety will be improved. This has been in the news lately. You've all heard if we get passenger rail through, the tracks will be improved. It's a nonpartisan issue. Republicans and Democrats will ride the train. And the freight railroads will benefit as well, and their business customers, including agriculture. So wouldn't a connection to Chicago be great? It's an economic hub, transportation hub, culture, shopping, dining, museums, theater. It'd be great to take the train back in. And we'll do a quick review of the passenger rail situation. Passenger rail did come through the area in 74 through 81, the old Black Hawk route. Did anybody ever take a ride on the Black Hawk? Good. Steve's wife, Vicki, has ridden the Black Hawk. And the director of the chamber in Galena rode the Black Hawk. But it's been 2 generations since anybody has used passenger rail, so it's not on the top of our mind. But the other thing, one of the things that happened recently is the Investment in Infrastructure and Jobs Act, or better known as BIL, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, that was signed into law in 21. And coincidentally, our feasibility study for Rockford to Dubuque was completed in 2022. If you just look up the map quickly, the Chicago to Elgin is operating route. Elgin to Rockford has been funded and is supposed to be being developed. There's a little bit of a conflict with that now, but that's already funded. And the route between Rockford and Dubuque was the subject of a feasibility study. The image is faint on the slide, but on the left there's the Rockford to Dubuque passenger rail extension. Many of us in Ride the Rail think the route should go all the way out to Waterloo, Iowa, and maybe further, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. The feasibility proposes a $30 fare from Dubuque to Chicago, 4-hour service from Dubuque to Chicago, with stations at Freeport and Galena. The Chicago-Rockford service was expected to be operating in 2025, but there's a new feasibility study out for that route as well. So that shouldn't hold us up. Which way? So we'll go back to the Corridor ID program. The Federal Railroad Administration was tasked with coming up with a way of distributing the funds that were made available by the BIL, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And they have done so, and they call it the Corridor ID program. We should note that the Rockford to Dubuque route meets virtually all of the criteria for the Corridor ID program that they've established. 13 out of 14. And we're going to see there's no financial commitment in the initial stages, at least. I've got a map of the Iowa State Railroad plan. I've often said that's the best kept secret in Iowa, is that we have a rail plan. We don't currently have any intercity passenger. We have a couple of national routes that go through Iowa, but they're through the unpopulated southern part of the state. But Illinois has a robust route, passenger rail program, and I've got a better map of this. So you can see all the passenger rail routes radiating out from Chicago and Illinois. Illinois has been a good supporter of passenger rail. If you look at our route, the Rockford to Dubuque portion that's being proposed, that's the missing spoke into the Illinois system, so just point that out. This is a FRA slide on the funding development stages. You can see this first stage, the expression of interest. There's no binding commitment, no funding commitment to that stage. That's one of the things we're kind of asking of Freeport to discuss and do. The second stage, the corridor proposal, there's also no binding commitments, no funding commitments. That's what we would like to get rolling this year if we possibly can. And the development stages, the 3 development steps would be after that. If our corridor proposal would get selected, we'd get $500,000 of seed money. That's to develop the service development plan. And after that, there would be a couple of additional planning steps. But again, there's no financial commitment in the first two actions, and no binding commitments. We frequently get asked, well, I really rather have, roads, highways get funded, but these are separate funding streams, and this diagram shows that. There's separate funding streams for roads and bridge repair, airports and ports, and passenger rail. There's $66 billion promised for passenger rail in the BIL Act law. This is another slide from the Federal Railroad Administration. This just shows there's a 5-year rollout for this $66 billion, and it shows the breakdown of the $66 billion. The Northeast Corridor gets some dedicated funds, but most of the rest of that $66 billion, we are eligible for funding from those funds. Just review some current support that we have for the route. Our local MPO, DMAT ECIA, has sent an expression of interest. Galena has sent us an expression of interest and a letter of support to the DOT. We've got an alphabet soup of regional planning organizations here. So Black Hawk Hills in Rock Falls has sent an expression of interest. NCICG in Ottawa has sent a letter of support. The Northwest Illinois Economic Development is endorsing us and sent a letter of support. In Iowa, we've just gotten some support from Waterloo. They've an expression of interest, and even Fort Dodge. So that northern route in the rail plan for Iowa is starting to show some interest in our route. Mention that. What'd you say? And Iowa DOT is resuming their passenger rail action committees, which I hadn't even heard of. I've been with the group for 4 years. I didn't even know about it. But it was during a period of COVID and so forth, and they're resuming their PRAC meetings, and that's a week from today, right? And we plan to attend that. So we have a lot of support, but what can Freeport do? Well, we'd like you to join our coalition. We would like you to do that first action step in the Corridor ID program with the expression of interest. Send that one in. And I've included a sample with the supporting material. I've got links to 2 very simple expressions of interest. All you have to do is go to the FRA comment page and leave a comment there, and that will suffice as an expression of interest. So there's a couple of links to that that has been provided, and I could provide again. The way we think this should go is we would like to persuade the Illinois DOT to submit the corridor proposal. And we talked to them last year, and they didn't do it last year. They're working with other routes. We asked our local MPO, ECIA, to submit the corridor proposal, but they declined. Failing that, an eligible entity, which could be any subdivision of state, could submit the corridor proposal. And Peoria did this in this last year, and it's something we could consider. Contact your legislators and DOT for support. Send a support letter to DOT. It's interesting to compare to some other routes that are being developed in Illinois, and most all of them have an elected official leading the coalition effort. Senator Steve Sadelman in Rockford headed up that charge. Chicago to Peoria wants a route, and they submitted their own corridor proposal, and Peoria Mayor Rita Ali did that, headed up that coalition. And Chicago to Moline, they have their Moline Mayor Sangeetha Rayapati is heading up that coalition. So we're looking for an elected official to kind of help us lead the charge, be a figurehead for the movement. Additionally, one of our advisors, Dan Bilka, suggested we have a conference call with the Federal Railroad Administration and get all the coalition supporters to kind of listen in and hear about the program and ask their questions. And we'd like to do that later this spring, so we would like Freeport to be in on that call. Let's go to other resources. There are other people that would be happy to talk to you that are experts on this, on the Corridor ID program and passenger rail, and we'll just mention a few of them. Rick Harnish has helped us quite a bit. He's out of Chicago with the High Speed Rail Alliance. He'd be happy to attend by Zoom and talk to you. Dan Bilka, All Aboard Northwest, they're out in Idaho and Montana and North Dakota trying to develop passenger rail out there. They're very knowledgeable and very helpful. They're having a rail summit out in Boise, Idaho. It'd be great to go to that. And Dan has asked if we would host the rail summit next year somewhere in the Midwest, perhaps Dubuque or Galena, perhaps Waterloo, maybe Freeport. So just think about that. Dan Schulte, who is the lead engineer on the feasibility study, be happy to talk to you. He's talked to Galena already by Zoom. Mark Magliore and Derek James are both advocates for our route, and they are on Amtrak Public Relations and Amtrak Director. They'd be happy to talk to you, I'm sure. So there are other resources to talk to. I'll just close with passenger rail is about keeping our communities a great place to live. So I'd be happy to take any questions, might be able to answer.
Sure. You used the acronym FRA a couple times. I'm sorry if I missed that. What is the FRA?
Federal Railroad Administration, they were given a task of distributing that $66 billion in federal funding, grant funding.
That's what I thought. And they're distributing it to IDOT, because you said that we need to encourage IDOT to continue this along.
We think they're the best person to submit the corridor proposal and manage. Ultimately, they will manage the project.
The FRA will?
DOT would manage this individual project. And if we can get Iowa involved, if we get Waterloo involved, we would like to see both DOTs participating. So, and they have a list of what they call eligible entities that can deal with FRA on this grant program, and DOT is listed. States certainly can, all the subdivisions of state, regional planning organizations, even the city of Freeport could do it. So, just saying.
Great. So, another question: this letter of interest or expression of interest is to be submitted to IDOT. That's what you're requesting?
You submit to FRA. They have a website, a page. You could send a written letter. We have a sample of the letter that ECI submitted. That's our Dubuque MPO submitted. It's excellent. Look at that. Look at the two FRA comments that I submitted. I think one was from Galena, one was from Waterloo. That you could look at those. They're brief. They're simple. It's just kind of a battle cry to get on the FRA's radar, to that we're interested in passenger rail development here through from Rockford to Dubuque and beyond.
Sure. Any questions from the council? Otherwise, I have some more. So I'll just keep going here. You said it would be you recommend that we also send letters of interest or support for this project to IDOT, and then also would it make sense to our state representatives and federal representatives?
Yeah, I think the feds, by funding this program, by voting on the BIL, have done their job. It wouldn't hurt to include them in any sort of communications, but getting some state representatives and senators on board, we don't know exactly where, Andrew Chesney hasn't come out for it yet, and Tony McCombie hasn't come out for it yet, but we have to convince them. I'm not sure who your state representative is, but if we
Chairman?
can get one of those on board and leading the charge with us, that'd be great.
Just for a point of clarification, are you asking for US DOT or Illinois DOT?
Illinois DOT, we would like them to submit the corridor proposal, Rockford to Dubuque, to perhaps and maybe further extension. And we have talked to the Illinois DOT in a kind of a conference call several months ago. And they were busy with a few other routes that they had prioritized. They said this came from Chandra, Ravada, and Dubuque, but that our route had scored well, but other routes had scored better. And they were helping a few other select routes in Illinois. I think Champaign might have been one of them. Like I say, Peoria to Chicago submitted their own corridor proposal, so that is a possibility. It can be done. But we think Illinois DOT would be key. We got to get them on board and help us with that. The application isn't that hard, but having the Illinois DOT on board from the start would be great.
All right. And then one of the things you provided us was the Rockford to Dubuque passenger rail extension feasibility study. And in the feasibility study, they looked at 3 routes, 2 of which do not go anywhere near Freeport. One of them passes directly through. And it says that the Route A, the one that goes through Freeport, was identified as the preferred route. And I just want to confirm, so that was identified as the preferred route by the IDOT who did this feasibility study?
Yeah, the feasibility consultant, Quandel Consultants, did the feasibility study. It was solicited. They won the award. They did the feasibility study. They assessed 3 routes. The one that goes through Freeport and Galena was the preferred route. It's basically the shortest route from Rockford to Dubuque. And so that's the preferred route, and we'd like to stick with it. We think it's the best route, too.
Has your organization met or tried to communicate with the Greater Freeport Partnership about this project?
We've tried to make several communications, but I don't think we've gotten through to the point where we were conducting constructive conversations yet, but we would like to. I know Hendrika, my co-chair from Galena, has talked to the county board, and there was some interest there. But we've kind of been working in our area for quite a while, and we're kind of reaching out to. One of the things that we ran into when we talked to the Dubuque area MPO was they want to assess the interest along the route. They want to see what's the level of support and interest along the route. They didn't want to run the whole thing from the Iowa side of the route. So that's part of it. But we think there's plenty of interest in Galena now, and plenty of interest from the Council of Governments along the route, and we'd like to see Freeport come out and state their advocacy for the route.
Sure. Any questions from other older people at this time? Okay. Well, was that it? Sorry. Nope. Okay. We appreciate your efforts. I think this is a great project, and I would be, I think it'd be a great disservice to the city of Freeport if this route got built along any of the other corridors, that go through kind of the Savannah and go up along Mississippi. I think there's, like you said, a lot of interest in this route, and it'd bring a lot of positives to the city of Freeport. And I see, is Mr. Oglesby? Did you have something you wanted to add? Yeah, step up to the microphone so it's the listening public can hear.
Presented very well, but just a couple things to add. We've been working on this since 2006, and the Amtrak study 2007, and then this other study last year. Okay, so two things. One, the Chicago-Rockford thing is on. But it only goes to Rockford. We want it to go all the way. And that Chicago-Rockford and the Rockford to Dubuque routes are state-funded mostly. What we're looking at is the infrastructure money, federal money, billions of dollars available, not millions of dollars to go. And we want to go from Chicago through Freeport and everybody else, Waterloo, Mason City, Owatonna, and the Twin Cities eventually. And I know that's beyond my lifetime, in my lifetime. But one other little fine thing is that the Chicago-Rockford route is on, but it goes on the wrong, but it goes on the wrong track. It goes through Belvedere, Chicago, Belvedere, Rockford, and then back. That's all it goes. So what we're looking for, and originally we were looking at the original Amtrak study, Chicago, Rockford, Freeport, Galena, Dubuque, whatever, on the Canadian National route, not the Union Pacific. I know we're getting in the weeds here, but those are important things to think about. We want federal money. We want the route going on the CN all the way right down to Chicago and bypass Belvedere. I'm joking about that. But so those are a couple things. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, this is your guys' chance to tell us what we need to do to help you. So if there's, right now, I understand you want us to do a letter of interest to the expression of interest to the FRA.
Right.
All right, and then you're recommending that we also do one to the IDOT, and then pretty much anybody in elected office in the state or federal level in Illinois, in Freeport's jurisdiction.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. That's great. Any other questions based on those comments? And well,
Let him speak.
yeah, if you just want to step up to the microphone to make sure everyone hears you at home.
This is our group, Ride the Rail, is a citizen advocacy group, private group. We're not connected to any government, right? And that's the way things go. That's community organization, that's what happens. And if in Freeport, if you know somebody, whatever group, to start your own community advocacy group, because that's what happens. Elected officials have too much to worry about, but private citizens, retired, have a hobby. Let's do rail things. Get a citizens advocacy group. I don't know how you do that, but
We'd love a Ride the Rail contingent from Freeport. Ride the Rail co-chair from Freeport. Got two candidates right here, right? So just
Sure. Yeah, that's great input, and a lot of things happen, not just from people sitting here, but it's important to have the community input. So with that being said, I'm going to make a motion to direct staff to draft a letter, expression of interest to the Federal Railroad Administration in support of this project. So that would be the first motion. So do I have a second?
Bornerman, I think Mr. Busker had a question from that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you said you wanted to ask a question, Mr.
Yeah,
Busker.
I didn't have a question. Mine was more of a statement that it's basic. My statement's pretty much going to second your motion there. I was just wanting to know, before we get lost here, how we can get this ball rolling, because I think with with the way people are working from home nowadays, I think rail service from Freeport to Chicago would be phenomenal. So I don't want this to get lost in the weeds.
That's great. So I guess I had the motion seconded by Busker. His comment. Any other comments? Would this need to be a voice vote or
It would be a roll call.
a roll call vote? Madam Clerk?
Borneman,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
and Barr.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
All right, and then I think to follow up on that expression of interest, I think, I'm going to make a motion that we adopt or draft, for staff to draft a letter of support for this project to IDOT and our state and federal elected officials, so representatives and senators.
Point of clarification, Madam Clerk, what was the first motion for? I'm sorry, I thought they were kind of all rolled into one.
I did, Attorney. Alderperson Borneman, when you were kind of outlining expression of interest to FRA, IDOT, and state reps, I wrapped that all into the motion, if that's okay with you.
Well, they were suggesting that we do a separate one, so.
To 3 state reps.
Okay,
But
that's the.
if you want to add.
No, if you're able to, that makes sense.
I think so, right? Because those are just those three entities or three separate groups is who you're looking to send the expression of interest to, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Great, thanks. I wanted to make sure we had that covered, and we do. So thank you all for the time that you're putting in, because I understand, like you said, this is volunteer work. You guys pursuing your passion that I think is beneficial to the public, and especially people. We get forgotten when you get a certain distance from Chicago in this state. So we really appreciate the work that your organization's doing. So with that being said, that was item 8. We're going to move on to item number 9, which is a presentation of Main Street Program presented by Andrea Schultz-Winter, Developmental Director of the Greater Freeport Partnership.
I think so. Awesome, thank you. Good evening. Thank you all for the opportunity to present kind of an orientation on Main Street, our strategy identification and development of that plan. So what I'm going to be talking about tonight, I'm not going to assume everybody's familiar with what the Main Street organization is, so I'm going to give you a brief overview. I'm going to talk about Freeport's journey, our transformation strategy development, and next steps. So in a nutshell, Main Street America is a national organization that champions downtowns, and they understand revitalization often comes from the core, leveraging the assets that a community has. Often those assets in your downtown are unique, they're historic, and that they can be adaptively reused for future uses. We work in partnership with our coordinating partner, which is Illinois Main Street, which most states in America or in the United States have a statewide program. And then we're the local practitioners on the ground. We work in conjunction with partners as well as the city of Freeport to do this revitalization work. And Main Street organizes their work in what they call the Main Street approach, which is really four-pronged. The idea being that you need to work in economic vitality or economic development. You need to have a sense of design to create a sense of place. Promotion and events, and I apologize, the yellow is pretty hard to read. It says organization. So I'll go through each one of those briefly to talk a little bit more in depth about what each 4-point means. First of all, economic vitality is really speaking to economic development, supporting a strong economic base. So retaining and helping existing businesses expand, looking at what other business mix might be great fit for downtown and for the spaces that we have in downtown, and then what economic development resources or incentives exist to make that happen. Looking at design, understanding that to create a great sense of place, you want to promote the physical improvements, whether that be in the public realm, sidewalks, streets, flowers, litter pickup, the appearance that people have that they see when they're walking down the street, as well as the private improvements. So looking at facades, signage, window displays. It all comes together to create that sense of place. Promotion, understanding the position the district or the downtown core as the center of activity. As you all are aware, there's a number of events that are going on. We're just kicking off that season right now. But really understanding that you're wanting to make downtown kind of everyone's downtown, that they come there for events, there creates a great quality of life, and they feel some sort of ownership that that's their downtown. And then organization, understanding that someone needs to be leading this work, they need to be tracking it, they need to be understanding hits and misses, and how to retool if something's not working. But that all happens in conjunction with working with our partners, the City of Freeport, other partner organizations, as well as an army of volunteers. And that comes from our board, from people who sit on our committees, to people who help the day of the event. And it all happens like everything else in life, with some balance. So Freeport's Main Street journey, about this time last year, I was hitting submit on an application to Illinois Main Street. That application was accepted and approved to become a Main Street community. Then we moved forward into the remainder of 2022. We had staff onboarding, and then we had our board of directors onboarding. In March of this year, we were able to host transformation strategy workshops. And there's two components that I'll go into in a little bit more in depth about how our transformation strategies were formed. And one is community vision for the downtown. That was achieved through a survey that was done online, as well as 2 days of focus group sessions with various groups. Then Main Street provided heavy data and researching into the market understanding. Who frequents downtown? Who lives around here? Who shops downtown? What do we not have downtown? What are some of the profiles of those, the people who shop downtown? So community vision. As we go into talking about one of the aspects, the community survey, we had 417 responses, and then we held 2 days worth of focus group sessions. We had a number of sessions, many of which you participated in, but really reaching out to residents, building owners, business owners, elected officials, residents, and partner organizations. And this is a high-level overview. I will caveat this by saying I was not going to go through each question that was asked on the survey for just the sake of time. But I won't read everything up on the screen, but these are some takeaways from the online survey. A full report from Main Street will be coming in coming weeks, and that will be available for everyone to review on our website. But some highlights: entrepreneurship. We are already supporting the creation of small business and helping small businesses kind of grow a sustainable base, but that there needs to be a continued effort and emphasis in the area of creating that ecosystem. Addressing vacant lots and building renovation, we have opportunities here. Inconsistency in business hours and when businesses are open. There were commendable projects that were accomplished, Chicago Avenue streetscape being one of them, and understanding that when we create and make an investment in those quality places, that will translate into economic development. Accessibility, when we think about, when we redesign an area, thinking about who can access what where, and I know Chicago Avenue was also an accessibility project. Design safety. Do people feel safe when they're in downtown? There's a perception, there's reality where crime happens, and then there's perception. If people don't feel safe, even if crime isn't occurring there, they're not going to go there. Parking. Do people know where they can park? And often there's a misnomer between where people can park and where they think they can park. And so that leads to a feeling that there's not enough of it. events and promotions. We mentioned before we do a lot of these, but how can we do a better job of connecting them to the natural amenities that we have in downtown? We have a regional trailhead, we have the Pecatonica River. Maybe we're not leveraging those things as much as we could be. And looking at partnership cultivation. How do we continue to work and engage business and property owners, both local and property owners that don't live around here, and then continue to work with the city in alignment, as well as other partnership organizations. And this was community input from the focus group sessions. You're gonna see a lot of similar threads throughout this. Some things that I'm gonna highlight was the encourage of mixed use development. So talking about on the ground floor, you have commercial or a retail development. We currently have a lot of that in downtown. We do have vacancies on the ground floor, but not as many as we used to. But we also have some spaces that maybe are underutilized. And we have a lot of upper floors that do have apartments, but there are a lot that sit empty. Looking at the built environment, still leveraging that historic fabric and looking at opportunities for redevelopment, but how do we retain that historic fabric and really champion the design and the architecture that's already there, again, connecting to natural amenities. Looking at design safety. One of the common comments through the focus group all day, through the different sessions, was people commenting on the increased lighting on Chicago Avenue, and how that had a huge correlation in how they felt safer in downtown. Again, events, really making sure that there are opportunities for family-friendly events. So feeling that everyone, all residents of Freeport can come and participate. Looking at the Arts Plaza, leveraging that asset in downtown. And again, continuing to cultivate partnerships. We all have to work together to get this work done. Market understanding and overview. So they really looked at, within a 5, 15, and 30-minute drive time of downtown, who is utilizing and shopping in downtown Freeport. And when we're examining that, we're looking at some demographic characteristics, and that information is helped put together some psychographics, they call it. Basically, a psychological profile of those shoppers. And that helps us understand how to target them, what's of value to them, what they're willing to spend more money on or less money on. And I'm gonna go through this really quickly. So I did not create these titles. This is Esri data, and they create this, what they call a tapestry. So they take this data information and they look at the demographics of that, and they kind of come up with some of these titles. And within a 5-minute drive of downtown, there is 34% of the population identified with this hometown heritage, traditional living, is about 25%, and so on and so forth. So those corresponding profiles are on the next page. And what this is helpful for is for us to understand, well, what disposable income might this group have, and what are they likely to spend it on? So this is helpful to inform if we're trying to attract a certain type of business, and I apologize, this is very difficult to read. I can follow up and send you the PowerPoint, so you guys can look at it a little bit more closely. It will help us understand what they're willing to spend money on, and that will help us attract certain businesses that, that they would frequent. So traditional living, you're looking at basically parents and kids. And so they're looking at their young homeowners, they're interested in convenience and outdoor recreation. So what businesses might support that? Retirement communities. They have a higher median household income and net worth compared to other tapestries that are in our mix. They're frugal, tend to be frugal, but they're brand loyal, and they enjoy books, puzzles, playing cards. What other things, how does that translate into a business mix that might have those things or have activities around that? And then salt of the earth, looking a little bit further, this was in the 30-minute drive time. They're really interested in entertainment, recreation, food, and apparel services. So this information is helpful, again, to really look at our business mix and what businesses might be a good fit within downtown. So projected retail demand by 2027, and this was within the 5-minute drive time, is that you're looking at 2.6 million in food projected growth. So people who live within 5 minutes of downtown Freeport are looking to projected growth, and what we're going to spend is 2.6 million, and this is annually. And then again, entertainment, recreation. This could be TV, video, this could actually be entertainment equipment, as well as tickets to an event or to a show, investing in our homes and remodeling, apparel and service. One of the things that commonly came up is there's not a lot of stores for men, but as you will note, that top was the women's apparel, which was more money was spent there than men's, but there's opportunities to expand our offerings here for apparel. And in our pets, our four-legged friends here, there's more people are owning and have pets. There's more businesses that could be around and support pet ownership. So from this information, both the community input as well as the market data, were formulation of transformation strategies. So really Main Street came back to us in the second day and was like, this is what we heard. This is the market data to support this, and this is where we think that you should really focus and prioritize your efforts. So again, listing some strengths here. I'll not read through all of these, but some of them: upper story opportunities, public-private investments, organizational partnerships, highlighting the consolidation of our organization, as well as the city management structure, city having a strategic vision, and how that ties back to the comprehensive plan, the housing study that was already done, as well as our work plans here at the partnership. All of those things should be kind of reinforcing each other. So we're marching towards the same goal. The natural amenities we have here, and the business mix, or the businesses who are willing to collaborate. So the first transformation strategy, which is really the primary one, was around upper story occupancy efforts. So in one of the observations was talking about, we have some vacancy in the ground floor retail space, but we have a lot more vacancy on upper floors, the second, third, fourth, fifth floor. A lot of them have been mothballed. Some of them have residential apartments, and what we heard over and over is there's always a wait list. You never see a downtown apartment, or rarely do you see it advertised, because they don't have to advertise them. They get filled as soon as there is a vacancy. So there is an opportunity to redevelop more upper floors. If you get more people living in downtown, you will get more people walking around downtown, using the businesses, dining in the restaurants. So a lot of the other things, there will be more activity. There will be support for more businesses in downtown if you have more people living downtown. So some of the things that we're going to prioritize is developing an inventory. Where are we at? What's our baseline? How many apartments do we have currently in downtown? What's the capacity? We have the housing study to help understand what the threshold might be to fill that gap. How many could come online, and we wouldn't oversaturate the market. Then working with the developers and develop a toolkit. We already have some incentives already. Are they being fully utilized? Do we need to provide more education? Is there miscommunication or confusion around local code, or how to work through the regulatory? And then coordinate a loft tour, ultimately, to get people interested so they can really see some of these spaces. The opportunity is there for people to come from outside the community to live downtown, but also people who already live here, who maybe are interested in downsizing. They don't need the 4 bedrooms, and they don't want the yard anymore. Maybe they could really be interested in a 2-bedroom apartment downtown. The second stretch goal, which we are also going to prioritize, is business retention and expansion and attraction from homegrown entrepreneurs. One of the things that I didn't do a very good job highlighting, but when we talked about all those different tapestries and the different psychological profiles of shoppers is that people were interested in frequenting and supporting local businesses. So the idea of supporting more homegrown entrepreneurs, more business startups, that helps fill some of those vacant ground floor spaces. So continue to understand what our desired business wish list is, and then what quantitative and qualitative data do we need around that to help support a business to get off the ground and get running. Continue to provide education and training. We're looking to do a community business academy yet again this year, and continue to collaborate and cross-promote to drive traffic to multiple businesses and stakeholders, and be intentional about our events and how do our events, we get people in downtown, but how do we get people downtown and then in the doors of the businesses? So I just threw a lot of information at you very quickly. What questions can I answer? And again, I apologize for things that were small. I'd be happy to follow up and send a PowerPoint.
Sure. Do we have questions? So I see that your presentation, the analysis and study identified some strengths, and those were kind of couched in areas where there's opportunity to improve. But
sure.
At the same time, were there any clear weaknesses identified, just out of curiosity, that's holding us back, or the city back? Or
I think it is when we look at, especially in conjunction with the identified transformation strategy of upper floor, developing more upper floor residential unit. When you break down redevelopment in terms of finances and building out a pro forma, sticky. How do we make that happen? Typically, there is a financial gap between what you're going to get in conventional lending, the equity an owner or a developer is willing to put in, and then what it's going to take to get the project done. So I think that is working in conjunction with the city to think about, we have tools. We're in a TIF. That TIF is going to expire at the end of this decade. We're also in the enterprise zone in downtown. We do have the facade grant program. So how do we think creatively on getting these projects done? I think is one way that was, to me, in my eyes, that is a big, when the rubber meets the road, that's something that we're going to need to figure out. And again, certain buildings are going to be easier than others, depending upon size.
Sure. So that brings to mind a program we had, and I don't remember exactly what it was called.
The revolving loan fund?
Yeah, and so the idea of that seemed like that we're not going to have enough money to go around, and that was the opposite. We didn't really get the applications that we thought. So kind of, is that an example of something you would encourage the city to present again? But also, how would we better advertise that and utilize it to get more people requesting those loans?
Sure. So we did have one applicant that went through and had successful application, and their project is done. I think it is. We also have the Community Development Corporation, so a conglomeration of 6 local banks that participated in that loan. It's an interesting project in terms of. So there's a couple questions here. I think it's a project-by-project basis. You have to have the right building owner who has the willingness and the capacity to put in some equity. In terms of how the revolving loan fund was set up with the city, was slightly before my time here. I kind of helped the program. There had been some formation of that before I started in my position. I think that they had leveraged some TIF dollars that were in the downtown TIF. I think it would be looking at, is it possible to do that again? Is there money available there? And if not, how else can we be creative? And I think sometimes this is where I would also lean on, we're not unique. The good thing and the bad thing is we have this problem. The good thing is it's not unique to Freeport. How do we look at other communities and how are they solving this problem?
Chairman?
Yeah, Mayor, go ahead.
Deputy City Manager Bucas, do you want to chime in on any of that?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, we did have the revolving loan fund program. We borrowed $1 million towards that project. I think there's about $25,000 still left in there. We do have one successful business. We tried working with the Greater Freeport Partnership on marketing the program. That was under a different executive director. We didn't really get very far. We looked at one building that they wanted over $200,000 to renovate, and they had no money to. That was just the exterior, 2 walls of the exterior of that building, and they had no money to do any renovations inside that building. We ended up taking possession of that building and tearing it down, along with the building next to it, for around $400,000. So a lot of money that we were using, that was going to be used for fixing buildings up, we ended up using for demolition because the demand wasn't there, but the buildings were starting to fall apart and were becoming a safety issue in the city.
I guess, was there anything, in the process, going through this process, that you saw that the city, that you'd encourage the city to revisit with respect to its codes in downtown? I know there's something about business hours and things like that. I don't know if that was related to anything on the city side or anything in general.
In terms of code, no. And I would caveat that by saying there wasn't a specific examination of code here in this process. I know not that long ago with the City Center project, there was a review of the code. I think that there were minor recommendations made, but there wasn't really found anything super deficient in terms of what the city was asking developers. The letter they were asking developers to meet was not anything different than other communities around this area. In terms of talking about working with businesses to have some consistency in hours, yeah, that was a recommendation. I would also say that that is not unusual to Freeport. A lot of times, one of the things that was kind of notable and that Main Street officials did point out, they had asked, there seemed to be a lot of people who were interested in shopping or did frequent downtown Wednesday afternoons. And they asked if there was some sort of program or if there were discount days or something and no, not that to my knowledge, but there does seem to be more people who were shopping downtown Wednesday afternoons. So that data is helpful in terms of, well, maybe we can double down on that and get more businesses to remain open or offer other specials or advertising to help promote more people to come downtown.
And the GFP, I assume, has a working relationship with, is there a group of downtown business owners?
Yes, there is. We frequently meet. I mean, there's a number of committees. I help chair or organize the Design and Placemaking Committee, which is really talking about design here. There are marketing and promotions committees that do talk more to the events and promotion, and with that comes input from businesses in terms of hours, conversations around that, how to do cross-marketing between events and businesses or cross-marketing between business to business. So yes, we do. I think that we're in the business of getting it right, not being right. So I think we're always looking for ways to improve. So we encourage and welcome feedback. But yeah, it's an open dialogue, and we encourage that we as an organization will not do all of this work by ourselves. But it is the idea. I appreciated going through this process to really engage and get people excited about their downtown again. I think Chicago Avenue, that project, once we were through construction, people seeing that, it helped drive some excitement, and then now we're gonna be the first event season that can utilize that great asset. So, I think it is the idea of people getting acquainted with their new downtown and just continuing that momentum.
Any other questions from anybody? So I'll just conclude with this question. I guess to give you a chance to explain why, like the average person watching on YouTube or watching at home right now, resident of Freeport, why should they be excited about the fact that Freeport has achieved the Main Street designation?
Because it's your downtown. And I think that at the end of the day, whether you own any structure or you have a business downtown, that your downtown is part of your identity and the sense of place and what makes Freeport special. So I think any effort to make it better or to improve it, you should get excited about that. And hopefully sponsor a sense of ownership. You too have a piece of this work, as well as you too will reap the benefits.
Great. Well, in the 4 years that I've been on the council, I've seen just a really great improvement and in the direction that our downtown is, and I understand what you mean when it's, I do have pride in the development I've seen down there, and you guys are doing a great job, and I think that it's a great start. We go from the Arts Plaza to the Chicago project to just, there's several other things that you just look at and just think that this is, a great start, and I think hopefully we keep that momentum going forward, and as your organization is a big part in that, so thank you for doing what you're doing and the presentation.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that, and I don't want to diminish our role and involvement in that, but we truly are a part of that. We are not an entirety, so it is a partnership with everyone to get that work done. So thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome, thank you. All right, that was item 9. This is moving on to item 10, which is discussion regarding ordinance 2023-25, amending chapter 1048, sewer rates and revenues, section 1048.01, establishment of rates, and amending chapter 1055, public infrastructure capital improvement fund, section 1055.02, funding, presented by Director Boyer.
Thank you, Alderman. During the special council meeting held on April 24th, the City Council approved the bid for the Phase 1 wastewater treatment plant upgrade. On May 1st, Council reviewed 4 proposed funding strategies to pay for the necessary upgrades, ultimately deciding on moving forward with a $3.35 per 1,000-gallon increase on the sewer rates for all utility customers. Additionally, follow-up discussion to be held at the Committee of the Whole that was scheduled on May 8th. Following the May 1st meeting, staff further evaluated the proposed $3.35 increase to the sewer rate. Staff analysis indicates a high impact on community, some of the largest businesses in the community, large employers. In light of the high impact on the largest employers, staff proposes the following adjustments to the proposed user rate structure indicated in Table 1. That would be a $3.20 increase on residential users, $1.30 increase on commercial, industrial, and public users, and also a CIP fee of $5 for residential meters, generally between 5/8 and 1 1/2 inch meters, and then a $50 per month CIP fee for 2-inch meter, $250 per month CIP fee for 3 and 4-inch meters, and a $500 CIP fee for 6-inch meters. So in addition to adjustments to the user rates and CIP fees, staff have reviewed offsetting utility fees with a small property tax levy. However, this option is not recommended by staff due to the inconsistency and complexity inherent in the property tax payments and the difficulty tracking and adjusting for those variations. Based on current estimates in the tables mentioned above, the combination of increased user rates and a small increase in the CIP fee would be sufficient to service the debt service for the Phase 1 wastewater treatment plant upgrades. Staff recommends moving this forward to the next committee or the next council meeting for approval, as mentioned in the tables.
Questions from council? Mr. Parker?
One is just listening. So you're going to say the $5 increase to CIP plus the increase on our water thing. So that's going to be an increase in 2 sections on our water bill?
Yes, sir. That would be a $3.20 increase per 1,000 gallons on the usage and a $5 CIP fee. So it'd be $5 no matter how much you use.
In a rough area, what would that be for the average citizen?
About $16.50.
A month total,
Yes.
both of them together?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, any other questions from anybody? Yeah, Attorney Zio.
Just a clarification, Manager. For the CIP increase, is that a $5 and 50, 250, 250, 500 above the current CIP rate, or is it adjusting them to this? Okay, in addition to. Thank you.
That's in addition to the existing CIP.
One of the questions I had was on the table 1, you have residential, commercial, industrial, and public. What entails when it comes to public users?
That would include the Public Housing Authority.
All right, so just make this clear, the staff's requesting that we change the decision that was made at the special meeting on last Monday of April from just increasing the rates to increasing the rates a lesser amount than what was approved in April at that meeting, and also including a $5 capital improvement plan fee to the bill.
That's correct. Staff is asking for just an adjustment of the original proposal to compensate for some concerns regarding large customers.
Can you expand on your concerns for large customers?
Well, one of our larger customers that uses, it is our largest utility customer. The flat rate increase of $3.35 would increase their bill $211,000. And I believe, as a former business person myself, I feel that it is a good idea to modulate on that, because that would be a major sticker shock, and that would drive a company to seek water savings options, to maybe use less water altogether. So my point is, if we raise the increase and it disproportionately affects some of our largest employers in town, it may have the opposite effect in our revenue.
So when you say $211,000, that's the increase, projected annual increase for that user?
Yes, that would be if it was based on just purely on the $3.35 per 1,000 gallon increase. Yes.
And they qualify under, well, I guess they're either a commercial or an industrial user, right?
Yes.
Their CIP fee would be increased to $500 a month
That's correct.
versus residential's increase of $5 per month.
That's correct. Yeah.
Have you spoken directly, or has the city spoken with this employer, or is this just a concern that you realized once you started crunching the numbers?
Your option two, the latter. This was after we started working on the numbers. We started out, we had several proposals. One of them was a $20 across-the-board CIP fee that kind of disproportionately affects the low water users. And then if we go to a straight usage fee, that would go disproportionately place the burden on our highest water users, who happen to also be our largest employers. So to modulate between the two, I've proposed that we change the initial proposal from council to include a small CIP fee, while also providing a little bit of a less dramatic increase on our largest users, who would be motivated to use less water and then affect our rates or affect our revenues.
Okay, so you just kind of touched on that at the end there, but why is it a bad thing if what was approved in April would encourage a user to use less water? Why would that be a bad thing from the city's perspective?
Well, I mean, from a conservation standpoint, that's good, but from a revenue and utility operation standpoint, we would seek to move forward with. We have a large upgrade that's about $58 million, and we need to see a sustained increase in our revenue to cover the cost, our borrowing costs. So in a perfect world, we wouldn't want to see our revenues decrease after we increase it, so that we are able to pay the debt service on that proposed Phase 1 wastewater treatment plant upgrade.
So I guess if I could summarize that, tell me if I'm wrong, but if the increase, if the larger users were hit with a $210,000 a year increase in their water bill, as a company, they would find a way to improve or upgrade their facilities so that after the improvements they're using less water and they're no longer facing this $210,000 a year water bill. And once that were the case, then the city would need to raise the rates further on either all users or them again, right?
That's a good surmisal, yes.
Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Barr.
So just my thought on that comment. I too, as a big business, I would also maybe be seeking of another location. Quite frankly, that's a little scary. That kind of money, if you have to shell that out constantly, that's just my thought. So I can understand where you're coming from that. But my question is, and I apologize, I think it was the last meeting last week, we talked about the revisiting this in 6 months. Do you still see that as something that would have to, it would be an ongoing thing to continually, obviously monitor the usage of it? Is this something that you would know in 3 months, 6 months, a year, as far as like where that usage is at?
Yes, thank you for that question. Yeah, staff's position that it's important for us to revisit this in 6 months to see if the anticipated revenue is meeting projections, and may require revisiting in the future because we're going to have a fixed payment to the Water Pollution Control Fund. So therefore, we're going to have to make that up if it does come up short. But I believe the proposal in front of us right now has the best likelihood of not upsetting current demand rates, and then it'd be my thought that if there was an adjustment, it would hopefully be fairly minor.
Okay, thank you.
So what are you looking for out of council at this meeting?
This was primarily for discussion, so if we can move this to the next council meeting for approval, that'd be great.
So I believe this is from the last meeting. We'll have it on the next meeting, but the way that it would be presented at the next meeting is based off of the proposal, the original proposal there. So if you guys wanted to move to what staff is recommending now, you would just need a motion to amend the original draft of the ordinance to reflect the staff's recommendation in the staff memo.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so motion made by Mr. Shado, seconded by Mr. Barr, as surmised by Mr. Zito there. I had one question. Earlier you were asked the estimated expected increase to the residential user. You said it's $16.50 a month. Is that combined the CIP and rate, or that's just the rate?
That's combined.
Okay. And that's also dependent on usage?
Yes. So if you're using more than the average user is about 3,500 gallons per month. So if you're using more than that, it would go up.
All right, so any other discussion on that? What type of votes needed at this for this?
Roll call.
Borneman,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Ross,
No.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
No.
Shadle,
Aye.
Mysick,
Aye.
and Barr.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-2.
All right, that leads us to public comments. So anybody has anything they'd like to say, now's the time to come up. Mr. Stekel.
I just wanted to give everybody a quick update on Chicago Avenue. So we should be getting the punch list and things cleaned up down there very shortly. We worked with the contractor. As everybody's seen downtown, there's some spottiness to the brick pavement paintings, if you want, staining. We should be addressing all that within the next few weeks. We're hoping to get mobilized if the weather's fine and do a test strip down by the art park later this week. It's a sealer issue. It should actually look better the second time around than it did the first. So I know there's been a lot of questions, so I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that. That repair will be at no cost to the city. We negotiate with the contractor. It's about a $50,000 fix. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Tommy?
My birthday is next month.
Well, happy birthday early, Tommy.
And I'm gonna be 60. What are you gonna do on my? What make you know, sir? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
When is your birthday, Tommy?
June 2nd.
Okay.
And Dwayne Dickerman, you got update about the IB grocery store in Fleet Farm?
Not at the moment, Tommy.
Are we still gonna get it? What?
Yes.
Randy, what? Randy, you? Are we gonna? I see you're gonna take care of that IB grocery store.
I'm planning on it.
We want to get it going.
Well said. Any other public comments? Otherwise, we are moving on to item number 12, which is adjournment. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Busker got there as the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Well, have a great rest of the week. Have a good rest of the week, Dubby. You did, yeah, I did, yes. Yep, I got that. I haven't looked at it yet. And then I got your logos. Renee got your logos. So you sent us, thank you for that. So,
yeah,
moving along.
Yeah.
I kind of, I didn't see it. Scan a little bit better. It's like I can just put some basic stuff and fill it out. Yep, okay. All right, thank you.